Shalom Kulam. Welcome everybody. This is chapter 2 of Hilchot Deot, the laws of personality development. And these are sort of usually overlooked but quite important halachot. This one deals with how to fix personality flaws. So let's start here. Halacha Aleph. Holei haguf tu'amim amar matok ve'matok mar. Those who are sick physically taste something bitter and it tastes to them as if it's sweet, or they taste something sweet and it tastes to them as if it's bitter. ויש מן החולים מי שמתאווה תאב למאכלות שאינן ראויים לאכילה. And among those who are ill, there are those who strongly yearn and desire to have food which is not proper for consumption. כגון העפר והפחם, for example, ashes and coals. ושונא המאכלים הטובים, המאכלות הטובים, and they hate good foods, כגון הפת ובשר, for example, bread and meat. הכל לפי רוב החולים, all according to however sick they actually are. כך בני אדם שנפשותיהם חולות, so too people whose souls are sick, מתאווים ואוהבים הדעות הרעות, they yearn for and love those personality traits which are bad. ושונאים הדרך הטובה, and they hate the good path. ומתעצלים ללכת בה, and they refrain, they're too lazy to go to pursue it. והיא כבדה עליהן למאוד, and it's very heavy upon them, literally, meaning it's difficult for them to go on that path because it's like walking through molasses. לפי חוליים, according to however ill they are. וכן ישעיהו אומר באנשים הללו, and this is what Isaiah the prophet says about these people. הוי לאומרים לרע טוב ולטוב רע, שמים חושך לאור ואור לחושך, שמים מר למתוק ומתוק למר. Those who say of bad that it's good, of evil that it's good, and of good that it's evil, and they make darkness into light and light into darkness. They call the bitter sweet and the sweet bitter. ועליהם נאמר, and of them it's also said in Mishlei, in Proverbs, והעוזבים אורחות יושר ללכת בדרכי חושך. Those who abandon the paths of the straight paths to go in the roads of darkness, the ways of darkness. Umahi takanat chole hanefesh, chole nefeshot. And what is the remedy for those who are sick of soul? And when we say soul sick, we don't mean mentally ill. We mean people whose souls are sick. In other words, they haven't trained themselves in the right paths. They yearn for the wrong things, not because they're mentally ill, but because they've trained themselves in badly. These people should yilchu esel hachamim. They should go to the sages, to Torah sages, shehem rofe'eh nefashot, who are in fact the ones who cure. They're the doctors of the soul. And these sages will cure their personality defects. And they will teach them the proper paths until they return them to the proper way. And those who are aware of their bad personality traits. But despite knowing their defects, they don't go to the sages in order to be cured. Alehem amar Shlomo, Solomon said of them, umusar evilim bazu. Umusar evilim bazu. And proper moral codes, the foolish reject. V'ketzad hi refuatam. So, okay, what is the manner in which they are to be cured? Mishu ba'al hema, somebody who's habitually angry. Omrim lo lehanhig atzmo she'im hukak v'kulal. They tell him to behave himself in such a way that if he is beaten and cursed, then lo yargish klal, he should make himself as if he does not feel anything at all. V'yelech b'derech zo zman merubeh, and he should do this for a long time, ad shete'aker hema milibo, until such time as the anger that he normally feels has been uprooted from his heart. V'imaya gvahlev, and if he was a proud person, yanhig atzmo b'bizayon harbe, uh, he should work on himself so that he's being what's the word I'm looking for? Bizayon. That he's being treated the opposite of with respect. The yeshev lamata minakol, and he should seat himself lower than other people when there's in old times, the more important people would sit higher up and the lesser people would sit lower down. So he would sit to treat his haughtiness, he should sit himself where the the less important people would sit. וילבוש בלויי סחבות המבזים את לובשיהן. And he should wear clothes which are worn out, which would cause people to uh, to scorn him. וכיוצא בדברים אלו, and similar things. עד שיעקר גובה הלב ממנו, until such time as his haughtiness is removed from him. ויחזור לדרך האמצעית, and he returns to the middle path. שהיא דרך הטובה, which is the good path. ולכשיחזור לדרך האמצעית, ילך בה כל ימיו. And once he goes in the middle path, he will thereafter go in the same path forever, for the rest of his days. ועל קו זה יעשה בשאר כל הדעות. And in this manner, in this path, he should go with respect, one should go with respect to all the other personality traits. אם היה רחוק לקצה האחד, if he's on one end of the personality spectrum, and we use this I'm using this not in the current sense of spectrums, but one end of the balance, ירחיק עצמו לקצה השני, he should move himself to the opposite side. וינהוג בו זמן מרובה עד שיחזור לדרך הטובה. And he should do this for a long time until he's moved himself into the middle path, the good path. והיא מידה בינונית שבכל דעה ודעה. And this is the middle between every extreme of personality development, as we discussed last week. But ויש דעות שאסור לו לאדם לנהוג בהן בבינונית. But there are some personality traits which it's forbidden for a person to only go in the middle path of them. אלא יתרחק עד הקצה האחר. Rather, he should go to the opposite extreme. And which ones are we talking about? והוא גובה הלב. For example, with respect to haughtiness, you should strive to be the opposite of haughty. שאין הדרך הטובה שיהיה האדם עניו בלבד. It's not the good path. The good path is not that one should be solely humble, but ela sheyesh fal ruach. Rather, he should be very humble, very lowly in his own mind. V'tiyeh rucho nemucha meod, and his attitude should be one of extreme extreme humility. ולפיכך נאמר במשה רבנו, and therefore with respect to Moses our teacher, it was said that he was ענב מאוד, he was extremely humble. ולא נאמר ענב בלבד, and it didn't say of him that he was simply humble, but that he was extremely humble. Ulfikach tzivu hachamim, therefore our sages commanded, me'od me'od hevish fal ruach. You should be very, very lowly of spirit. Ve'od amru shekol hamagbiha libo. They also said that anybody who uh, makes himself proud, so, kafar be'ikar, he rejects fundamentals of the faith. Shneemar, as it says in Dvarim, in Deuteronomy, Veram levavcha v'shachachta et Hashem Elohecha, that your heart becomes haughty and you forget the Lord your God. Ve'od amru v'shamta de'it be'gesut ruach v'afilu miktzata. And they said with respect to what's the word? I'm having trouble today thinking of the words. Shamta is what's the word in English? Okay, we'll skip that because I can't think of the word in English. All right, sorry about that. V'chena ka'as, similarly to haughtiness, anger is also a bad thing which needs to be extremely dealt with. It's a personality trait which is extremely bad. And it's proper for a person to distance himself from it to the other extreme. And he should teach himself that he not get angry. And even with respect to something that is worthy to be angry about. But on the other hand, but if he wanted to, so to speak, cause his children or his household members to be afraid, or or the public, if he was a public official, and he wanted to, in order to make them afraid, he wanted to be angry with them, so that they would repair their path and become, not do bad things. He should present himself in front of them as being angry with them in order to cause them to suffer. But inside, amongst himself, his mind should be settled and calm. Like a person who pretends to be, who tries to appear to be someone who's angry, but he's not actually angry. Amru Hachamim, the early sages said, Kol HaKo'es, anybody who's angry, Ki'ilu Oved Avodah Zarah, it's as if he's worshipping idols. Ve'amru Shekol HaKo'es, and they said anybody who is angry, Im Hachamhu, if he was a sage, Chochmato mistaleket mimenu, his wisdom departs him. Ve'im Navihu, and if he was a prophet, Nevuato mistaleket mimenu, his prophecy leaves him. Ba'ale Ka'as, those who are habitually angry, En hayim, their lives are not living. Lefikach tziruch litrahek min ha'kas, therefore our sages commanded to distance oneself from being angry. Ad shenhigatzmo shelo yargish afilu ledvarim ha'mach'isim, so that one should train himself so that he should not feel even those things which should anger a person. V'zohi haderech hatovah, and this is the good path. V'derech hatzadikim, and the path of the righteous. Hin aluvin, they are insulted. Ve'enan olvin, but they do not insult people back. Shom'in hirpatan, they hear people disparage them. Ve'enam mishivin, but they don't answer them back. Osin me'ahava, they do what they do from love. Usmehin biyisurim, and they're happy with the suffering that they get. And why are they happy with the suffering they get? Which seems like a silly thing to say. They're happy with the suffering they get because they know that this is a sign from above that they have issues that they need to take care of. Alehem HaKatuv Omer, of them the Torah says, Ve'ohavav keset hashemesh begvurato. I'm sorry, it wasn't the Torah, it's in Sefer Shoftim, the Judges. Those who love him, God, are like the sun when it comes out in all its glory. Le'olam, always, a person should, yarbe adam b'shtika, a person should always be quiet, be silent. ולא ידבר אלא בדבר חוכמה או בדברים שהוא צריך להם לחיי גופו. He should only talk with respect to things that are matters of wisdom or those things which are required for his daily life. Amru al Rav, Talmid Rabbeinu Kadosh, they said of Rav, who was the student of Rabbeinu Kadosh, the one who wrote the Mishnah, that he never spoke an idle conversation his entire life. And this, in other words, idle conversation, is the majority of conversation of people. And even with respect to those things which the body needs, a person should not say more than he needs to. This the sages commanded and said, Kol hamarbed dvarim mevichet. Anybody who speaks over much brings upon himself sin. Ve'amru lo matzati leguf tov ela shtika. They also said that I didn't find anything as good for the body as quiet, as silence. V'chen v'divrei Torah v'divrei chochma. And likewise with respect to words of Torah and words of wisdom, Yiyud divrei hacham mu'atim. The words of the sage should be few, v'inyanehem mirubim, but their content should be great. V'hu shetzivu hachamim v'amru le'olam yishnei adam l'talmido derech tzara. This is what the sages said when they said a person should always repeat, in other words, teach by repetition, his students in a short manner. In other words, not with long perorations, but rather in short and to the point phraseology. But if his words were many and the content little, this is foolishness. And of this it said, Ki ba halom berov inyan v'kol kasil berov dvarim. Just as a dream has all sorts of things going on in it, so too the words, the voice of the fool is full of words. Siag lechochma shtika. A fence around wisdom is silence. Lefikach lo yemaher le'ashiv. Therefore, a person who is wise will not quickly answer. V'lo yarbe ledaber, nor will he speak many words. V'lamed letalmidim b'shuva v'nachat, and he should teach his students with calmness and peacefulness. V'lo tza'aka, without yelling. V'lo arichut lashon, without lengthy speeches. Husha Shlomo Omer, this is what Solomon said, Divrei hachamim benachat nishma'im. The words of the sages are heard in calmness. Asur la'adam le'anhig atzmo b'divrei halakot ufitui. It's forbidden for a person to train himself to speak Halakot is from the word halak, meaning smooth, to speak in oily tongues, and pitui is uh, trying to ensnare people. V'lo tihiyeh ahat b'peh v'ahat b'lev. He should not have one thing in his mouth and something else in his heart. Ela toho kevaro. Rather, his inside and his outside should be the same. V'inyan shebelev hu hadavar shebepeh. Whatever's in his heart is the thing that should come out of his mouth. V'asur lignov da'at habriot. And it's forbidden to uh, fool people with words. V'afilu da'at goy. And that includes Gentiles. Ketzad, what do we mean? Lo yimkor lagoy basar nevela bichlal shchuta. A person may not sell meat to a Gentile with the understanding that it's kosher when it's actually not. V'lo mena'al shlemeta bimkom mena'al shel shchuta. Nor the leather used to make shoes from a dead animal, from a non-kosherly slaughtered dead animal, as if it's made from was made from a properly kosher animal. Nor should he implore his friend that he will eat with him at his house. But he knows beforehand that he's not going to go to his house and eat. Or give him lots of gifts knowing that the guy won't accept them. Or or opening barrels, say, of wine or of oil that he needs to open in any case in order to sell, in order to impress him that he's opening them for his sake. Likewise, anything similar to this. Even one word of this sort is forbidden. Ela sfat emet v'ruach nachon, v'lev taho mikol amal v'havot. Rather, he has to have, when he speaks, it should be with truthfulness and a proper spirit and a pure heart. Lo yeh adam ba'al tzchok v'hetel, nor should a person be perpetually laughing and fooling around. V'lo atzev ve'onen, nor should he be mournful and sad. Ela sameach, rather should be happy. Kach amru hachamim, so our sages have said, tzchok v'kalut rosh margilim la'eruva. Laughter and lightheadedness bring a person to transgress sexual transgressions. V'tzivu shelo yeheh adam parutz b'schok. The command that a person shouldn't be always laughing. Lo atzev umitabel, nor sad and mournful. Ela makbil et kol adam b'sever panim yafot. Rather, he should be I don't think there's an actual translated word for that. He should be in front of every person that he meets and treat them all with um, a good countenance. He shouldn't be a greedy person always looking at going after money. Nor should he be a lazy person who doesn't do any work. Rather, he should have a good eye, meaning me'at asak ve'osek b'torah. He should work a bit to cover his needs, and the rest of his time he should be spending studying Torah. Ve'oto ha'me'at shu helko, and that little that is his lot, yismach bo, he should be happy with what he has. Lo yeh lo bal ktata v'lo bal kin'ah. He shouldn't be someone who's always arguing and always jealous. V'lo bal ta'ava v'lo rodef achar hakavod, nor should he be a person who has unrestrained uh, appetites or going running after honor. Kahamru hachamim. This is what our sages said. Hakin'a v'ta'ava v'akavod, jealousy and excessive appetites and looking after honor. Motzi'im, motzi'im et adam min olam. They take one out of the world. In other words, you lose your benefit of being in this world because you can't pursue Torah mitzvot and you don't collect, so to speak, any benefits. Klalo shel hadavar. The general rule is like this: ילך במידה בינונית שבכל דעה ודעה, עד שיהיו כל דעותיו מכוונים באמצעית. והוא ששלמה אומר, וכל דרכיך ייכונו. A person should go in the middle road of all the personality traits, except of course those ones which we said one should not be in the middle of, so that all of his traits are in the middle path. And this is what Solomon said, that you should, all of your paths should be prepared. And this is the end of chapter 2. Next week is chapter 3, and we will discuss that at that point.